What's up, guys? Steven here today, and today what I wanted to talk to you about is field theory. This video is essentially building on the last video made in this particular series. I think it was positioning, and to essentially expand on that topic, I wanted to essentially bring up the concept of individual free space movement, how it correlates with, I guess you can call it, team or squad free space movement, specifically the field boundaries, and then the overall correlations to, I guess you can call it, team flux. The way that I wanted to present this is from the standpoint of looking at an individual free space has, you can call it, a set of concentric circles or fields. And I guess for a swaggy ass multi-dimensional representation of this concept, just think +0, -0, +1, -1, and then +2, -2. So this will make a lot more sense if you go back to the topics covered in the individual, I think it was tactical positioning, and which I covered how one person's way of moving naturally with their own, I guess, constraints, the way their body is made, the mannerisms, body habits, etc., creates for, I guess you can call it, a specialized, not only skill set, but even rigid body mechanics by which a produced specific range of motion in which their movements are, I guess you can call it, exerted. So think of the way that you swing your left foot or the way that you twist your hip, right? And how that correlates to maybe the way you hold your back together, upper or lower, or even the way that you essentially shift through motion with your calves, right, as you're walking. And how that essentially implies, you can call it the given set space, or think of the range of possibilities that are physical in nature, or I guess the range of possibilities that a person can express, i.e. their potential, has defined by this over, as you can call it, basically driven natural packaging. All right. I think in the video I mentioned, I talked about how one of the things people, for example, overemphasize wrongly is a tendency to specifically mimic left body neuron, so think left leg, right body neuron, think right leg, exact match response. So think the way you make a pass on your left leg or the way you shoot the ball with your left leg is exactly how you desire it to look when you're using your right leg to make the pass or the shot. And how I was essentially saying that by our natural, I guess, habituations, so mannerisms, habits, etc., tendencies, this literally creates, you can call it a signature, right? So your way of moving through the world, through all these constraints, makes for a unique motion expression through your body. And as such creates for, you can call it a permutation of sequential or permutative sequence of events that cause you to essentially exhibit these things. So think you want to make a pass with your left foot, and the way through which motion moves with your body, the way through which you hold tension at different parts of your body as you make this motion causes for a unique way of it manifesting, right? In that same grain, it is the same way that I was eliciting you to think about your right leg motion. And in that, hoping people to realize that by wanting to perfectly match left, right body, neurons, it's actually causing an over calibration. It's like you're overextending, right? So one thing, for example, the left side of our body or the right side of our body, for some people, for example, it's uneven, right? And so your right foot is longer than your left, or vice versa. And so you do longer strides or shorter, gaits. So taking an extended step with one or the other, which means there's a different inputting of force, right, on the ball. And so if you're trying to mimic that on the other side, it's literally gonna, think about it, you can see the funny, right? And what I was trying to, the eureka that I was trying to elicit, like your inner genius comes out when you can kind of masterfully sauce the two, you can call it stylistic, unperfectly matched sides, so body neurons, left or body neurons, right, of your body in a way that's naturalistic to what you're doing or how you're moving with the ball, right? So your long stride or short gait causes for maybe force to be more natural if you're moving it counterclockwise or clockwise, to be easier to pass onto the ball or etc., right? And even more, adding to maybe the starting point by which that motion is created, makes it to where it's so much smoother and balanced. I think in this one I pointed out tensegrity, right? This idea that it's that. It's a model, certain physicians or whatever, where it's strings, etc. You pull on one part of it, and it pulls the whole model to one side, etc. And that view of the body allows one to more clearly illuminate the long pathway of force. Has genesis on one side and catalyst to one point of contact. And in seeing that, you can clearly see how even that straight or that long stride, or even the curved, right? If you're, some people perfectly, literally crossovers as they move through the field, right? As they're constantly, expanding or maintaining a 540 degree field of vision, makes it to where it perpetuates across the field of your body. Right, so we have the, what do they call it, the meridian lanes, right? The lanes of body, lines across the body, up to down, right? Crisscross the myofascia, etc. And then let's not mention the vertical and then lateral, right? But then we also have the meridians that crisscross on the side. And the point in mentioning those specifically is they actually tend to be more critical and influential in one's literal physical manifestation form in terms of decisions, expressions, even how you subconsciously anticipate or think about the options you have prior to a moment, right? And in seeing that, it's actually one of the most interesting problem domains as it, I guess, ascertains or trickulates into so many other siloed, I guess, common ailments, right? Anyways, in this, I guess if you take this to heart and explore, you'll come to the realization of what I mentioned in that video, and it will allow you to, I guess, make more sense of the idea forth brought in this video today. So, left body, right body, forces, etc. And I guess you just flow with it. And I think the videos I mentioned in this series was specifically the idea of flux, right? Now, connecting that and then making the starting point of, I guess, the concept of fields, right? So the best way I like to illuminate this, when we think about this, is literally information theory or marketing, for example, right? As a subject matter essentially increases in volume of information, it literally takes up, or as a subject matter accrues in the amount of data pertaining to that subject matter, it literally takes up volume in terms of information. So how much is known about the subject, how much relevant information can be, I guess, queried, and then the pertaining details that make that so. And then in this complexification, so as this occurs over time, the complexity, so the volume increases, causing for, you think of it as like a ballooning up, right? So before you have a little circle, and then it becomes an even bigger circle, and then an even one, right? I could think of it in three, like marketing or SEO, whatever, you have like even more. Let's keep it like old school, like the mind map, right? So category, and then diverging to subcategory, right? There's another one for literally fucking drawing blanks, but it'll come back to me. And then the third one is variant, right? What is, I guess, most traditionally, commonly, colloquially referred to as niches. And I'll use that term loosely here because I have like a weirdly defined more way of using it than what may typically it being referred to comes up as. But the point is, just think of like maybe your newspaper turned dictionary, right? So you start off and you have like news, let's call it hot gossip, quote unquote, and then health, right? So bodybuilding, nutrition, and then maybe business tip, like stock info, and then ads, so jobs offered, right? And then maybe like stuff sold, like products sold, right? And then as this accrues, like the more and more of, I guess, content in each bucket, the greater the space of, you can call it subtopics, covered in each bucket So think the old school way of writing an essay in school. You have your main topic, right? So proposing idea, hypothesis, and then you say it will be covered by such. Main body is like point 1, 2, 3, and then each point, ending point, literally shows how it's connected to the main idea and then slides into the second. And the concluding literally ties all three and clearly states how it presents the, you can call it, I use the word totality of the message, that is the idea henceforth stated in the hypothesis, but you can call it the message, right? And then at the same time, conclusory remarks. So how the presented idea can translate into, etc. Prognosis. So in that same way, like as there's more information in these different topics, the ranges of how these topics are covered literally increases and spans the set of time, digital space in this question. And so by that, literally interesting, you can call it subforms of this idea get created, come across, and interweb connected to this one or many different buckets, right? So the simple way, for example, let's use the word love, right? You can think of it as the emotion, you can think of it as like the relationship, you can think of it as like the way it's presented in society, right? And then you can think of it as like sex, right? But then as you think about all of these different examples that is brought to mind and how you formulate their manifestation, there's like a span of different genres of events and contextual situations that literally illustrate it. Literally crisscrossing like a myriad of other subtopics. The what? And so like love literally fills all these other different interesting points. And so my point is, has a particular bubble hits, you can call it tipping point, threshold, limit, there's literally like an overfilling of the cup, which pulls it into another category, or another category is pulled in to literally, it's like scaffolded, right? So that's the point of like the subcategory, right? And so in that same way, it literally grows, right? It's like it alives the idea and literally the web of all of these buckets. And so now your, I guess, newspaper almost becomes a dictionary. That's kind of what I meant, right? In that same way, has now, you go from like a category to all these like interesting points. There's also a literally new branch of genre of material that is created, right? So you have the main point, you have this like randomized into existence interests that show up, and then they literally spool these other different genres of material. So the point in this is like, let's think how to make money online, right? Someone can think running a business, so making websites for people, right? Someone can think, how do I find a programming job or find jobs, programming gigs regularly in Google that. Someone can think, you type in how to make money online, right? And it's like, would you like to run ads, right? Or something like, we will pay you for referrals, etc. all these different things, right? Permutative manifestations of how to make money online. And so these are literally materials. One's an example, one's a direct how-to, one's a like starter point, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they literally create these spanning set of trees that will generate what I call variants of this info, right? So that's kind of why I use that and not like niches. So I think specifically maybe speaking to capita, right? So how much money is going in and out of a particular, or the amount of money tied to a particular idea. There's so much flux that goes to that, like size, people researching it, known or not, like mainstream, and even you can call it the growth rate, curiosity factor that is attributed to it, right? So think, for example, maybe 10 years ago, most people would have never Googled lose weight or how to lose weight online, right? Literally, most people would have never thought of that. I think maybe 2005, 2004, I think the era of like the flip phones, the Razor, sorry. Most people would have never thought of that because you would have think, I'm just gonna join the wrestling team, right? Or play sports, right? Or even go work out at my friends, or gym if you had one, right? But the idea of like personal training was actually literally foreign and arcane, because the idea of like getting continuous, perfectly tailored to value in order to execute or reach mission accomplishment of the objectives of losing X or gaining Y pounds, pure muscle, right? Or just pounds, was like weird. Most people, the typical human mainstream society thought did not think like that. Anyways, I guess in that same way, it's kind of like, we don't realize, oh shit, when gas prices go high, fuck, right? Weird thing like that. Or even like, what's awesome on MTV, right? America's Best Dance Crew, or shows like that, or fucking what did Vinny do today, right? Little shit like that, right? The internet was like literally different. Like right when MySpace or Facebook was popping, even that, like, was like leave a comment on your friends, etc. It wasn't like this far out internet land as it is now, or life. AKA literally out of Ready Player One. That's kind of what I'm saying. Now, to go back to this concept of variant, it allows you to actually perfectly visualize what will go into the tipping point threshold limit that would burst one category into the other, or bring one into the conception from the other, right? Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, God. I guess my English was feeling on that one, because that was perfect. Bottoms up or tops down. Anyways, if you'd like to go more in depth, call me. I'm sure it'd be more lucrative for you. Now, to the point of the video at hand, think plus zero. Oh, yeah, 0 plus 0 or minus 0. And I use the sign direction for a specific reason. some topics literally would, it's like a game changer, a world changer to actually factor that in prior to even your subconscious understanding of why that would be. Others, actually, it's like capping your potential, or I guess the mind's potential of drawing where that would go. Possibilities of ideas, like 0 to slime attitude. And then +1 is like a bigger, and then +2, and obviously -1, -2. In this, you can see how fields are correlative to each other, right? So they're concentric circles. But, and as I always say, it's always awesome to allow the possibilities for God to come in, / something interesting to step in and always amuses, right? And in this, it is to essentially draw the fact that that does not mean that it's like hard line, like the rule is that they stay within the realms of each other, meaning the smaller concentric circle is always within the bigger one, right? It can always overlap. I know it's kind of weird, whimsical, mystical way of thinking about it, but just think the starting set of the ranges of value, and you'll kind of get to around countably infinite and uncountably infinite, a la Professor Gal. Shout out for that one. Now, going forward, it also allows you to perfectly encapsulate some of the more, I guess, abstract, almost esoteric principle energetics that I was bringing up in this series, right? So imagine there's a circle, right, on your body, right? 0 +1 +2, 0 -1 -2. Adding into z-axis. So this is where things get fucking sick, and where I was bringing up specifically this concept of left side, left body neuron, right body neuron, right? 0 would be like, imagine a tabletop. 0 is like you're perfectly null. So as they would say, the forces are completely nullified, and there is no gravity. +1, you're like tilting, right? And then -1, you're leaning. I think my English got that. Those two backwards, but you get the point. In this, you can also respectively allow the visualizer, so your mind's visualizing, imaginative situation of the possibilities, both energetically, mentally, etherically. So just think G-Tron pathway, or remember that movie Tron, and seeing the possibilities, and then I guess it's not used emotionally, but dynamic potential ability that comes from this, right? So the circle, and then like you see based on where you are as a 0 mind, how that affects your overall potential. If you want to get even more creative, think valence electron shell, right? So as orbital shells, or as the valence shell gets full, more electrons coming, and electrons, the atom is literally happier, buzzing with excitement. As the orbital shell gets filled, a new track path is formed. It's like a new colliding, and then new orbital shell, and that's literally raising the potential. So 0 +1, etc. Now, in this, also remember the correlative forms. So squad mate, and then the goal, and then the other players. right? And then the play at hand, right? So running, or you walking, etc. And then at the same time, and this is the fucking swag ass shit, specifically the one team consciousness point. And I think it was a tactical movement, team space, but the idea of like the vision, third eye enlightenment, and it just like literally just like drifting and not allowing your bound situations to just think that circle on some level cascades your awareness to think single focus, like one unit, right? But if you just, it's almost like a fucking Goku, just like sensing, you literally transcend that. And you don't literally just see this moment, but you feel the other, I guess, fields, and you perfectly make, I guess, the right sense signals, right? So shifting up or down fields or making the pass, etc. Even like communicating on. Now, I guess the crux of this video, so the final point, is realizing that from one field to the next, it's literally another resonant field of motion, manifestation, expression. I recently kind of lightly touched on it, actually heavily, in I think it's like a swag hack video presenting, I guess, the concept of powering up like a Super Saiyan. And essentially bringing up the sine wave pattern. So 0, 1, 0, minus 1, right? Permutation 1, and then 0, 1, 0, minus 1. Like 0, 1, 0, minus 1, 0. Right? That's the whole pattern. But in this, when you're meditating, breathing, conceptualizing minus 1, 1, 0 is not forbidden, right? And in that video, I kind of covered the literally different moments of these three uniques and how like they could be anchored to what I call different energy bodies, right? So like you're like in a different modus operandi, and there's like different ways that can be potentiated. So imagine in one, you're like fucking electric. What's his name? The fourth Raikage, so Naruto's dad, right? Another one, you're like fucking Naruto, Seijutsu, burning, etc. And the other one, you're Sasuke Amaterasu, like Sharingan, right? Literally different packagings, energy manifested and empowered, if you will. And allowing that to kind of like ebb and flow as you're evolving, kind of fucking around with shit. You can literally non-cap yourself by just swag surfing. Meaning you're not just focused on, yo, my left foot is fire, or my right foot is sick, right? But it's like one body, or one component of the one thing that is the wholeness body. One piece of the wholeness that is your body, right? And so it doesn't make you just tunnel vision. And I think it's kind of funny because at the same time that if you have a strength, it's like the literally genius thing to always go all in, right? So badly to the point that like your strength literally kryptonizes your weaknesses, if you will. Like if you have like the mean left left punch, I mean, you have a mean left punch, right? At the same time, though, that right punch is there, right? So I think it's like it's interesting what happens when, as I say, you leave to the imagination the possibilities for shadow perception zones to literally make you better. So, someone, by happenstance, you happen to have to need to use your right punch or right foot. But all this time, that's all you know, right? So, and that's kind of the whole point. I was reverse engineering, mind gapping previously, right? If we're always thinking left foot, right, we're gonna make the pass or the cross, or even tactically, like he's gonna 4-4-2 the shit. It's literally driving us to the nexus that is always gonna conjoin the possibility set options go that way. But when you're like reading the wind, right, you're just like seeing the totality of all that is possible. You do not affect, I guess, conditioning. And that's kind of like the point I was trying to say. And again, please fire me if I'm like trying to, you think now fuck all that. And none of that. These are just like me sharing my point. And I guess when you see some shit like fucking Ronaldinho, for example, where it's like, yo, like literally all parts of this body, right? Or even think like an old school player like fucking Paul Scholes from back in the day, way back. Or even Steve Nash, or what's his name? Zenzima, I would say, right? Like, I know it's like, but yeah, like their whole body, Puyol, their whole body, it literally changes the definition of Joga Bonito. Because it's like, yo, what's possible, right? And I guess in that same way, when you're thinking about that, even as you're perfectly executing the uppercut or the left cross, you're not looking right. You're not looking at a side tangential option. I think it makes you powerfully more dynamic. Even as you're like going to it, scared. Zenziva, crazy. Nothing. I guess me think that's kind of how it happens. And I guess if we all allow ourselves to just like be in that like magically, perfectly going with it moment, the possibilities for human potential are truly endless. What is levitation? Is it me stepping into the air? Or am I just breathing up? Anyways, hope you guys get something out of this. And as always, swag the fuck out.